much for tuning in to this episode. We're in the middle of a series called Conference Chats because if you missed it, we are hosting an amazing conference happening this summer in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and also virtually. And so, Conference Chats is just an opportunity for you to get to hear from some of the presenters and get to hear about all the things that are going to be offered at the conference. And so, today we're going to be talking about nature study. Hang on here. I'm hearing feedback. Are you hearing feedback?
I am not hearing feedback.
Hmm. Well, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think what I have open. That might be. Just close all my extra tabs. Better for the brain, anyways. I'm not really sure why I'm hearing feedback, but we'll just do that again. I don't have. Last time I think I had YouTube open, but I don't think I have it open. Okay, well, we'll just try it again. Test, test, test. That's so weird. I keep hearing it. Hmm. All right. Well,
I'm
I'll
definitely not hearing it on my end.
okay. I'll just keep going and hope for the best. Yeah, this can be edited. So, okay, we'll just pick up. We'll just go again. So, well, hello, hello, and welcome to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Podcast. I'm your host, Elise Thompson. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. In case you missed it, we're in the middle of a series called Conference Chats, and we're just talking about all the amazing sessions that'll be taking place at this year's summer conference entitled For the Love of Learning. And so today we're going to be jumping into discussing nature study. And I have an amazing quote that I want to share with you before we dive into it and introduce my speaker. And it's this, it's from Home Education, and it says, "We are all meant to be naturalists, each in his degree." And I love this quote because it removes intimidation around nature study, and it reminds us that it's not, something that's just for a specific type of person, like not the outdoorsy type, but it's for everybody. And Mason was just saying that she wanted us to all participate. Doesn't mean we have to be um, you know excellent at it. We don't have to be an expert at it. We just have to try. And so I'm excited to welcome Laura Shepard. She's going to be the presenter at the conference, and she's my guest today. So welcome, Laura, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so if people missed your previous podcast episode, Laura's going to be speaking on schooling multiple children. So if you missed that, go back and listen to it. But Laura, we would love to just be reminded a little about who you are, and we would also love to just know about how nature study became something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, sure. Well, like you said, I'm Laura, and I'm a serious bird nerd and hobbyist naturalist. And my husband and I, we have 4 children, and they are ages 15 and a half, 11, and we have 9-year-old twins. And so I've been homeschooling them basically since my oldest started school. And it really was Charlotte Mason, I think, that was the biggest like instigator in my passion for nature study. Um, as a kid, I enjoyed nature, and there were seeds planted. I had relatives that, planted little seeds. But it really wasn't until we started doing nature study ourselves and it became, a part of our regular life, that it really opened that door for me, and like my real relationship with nature began.
Wow.
And I think it mainly started because we started small and we started with like backyard bird watching, and mainly because that was really easy. And put out some feeders and just start seeing the birds that came,
Yeah.
start to notice the different species and all that.
Mhm.
um, and then from there it really began to grow, because just through that simple act, I started to realize like how much there was around me that I hadn't really noticed before.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, wow, just something so simple. So, you started off not as an expert, like you didn't hate
No.
that you were not an expert. You're like, hey, this is super simple. Like, we can put some feeders out in the backyard and that can be our nature study. And I'm sure you would never would have imagined like how that simple act just really opened the doors for such a deep love and a passion that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so funny because, you grow up your whole life and you're like, yeah, birds. And, but then, we noticed birds that were coming into our yard in our feeder, like I never knew existed. And these are not like exotic birds, but um, I was like, how did I not know that never existed before?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so it just kind of trickled into other things, and, started to notice more things, because the funny thing is that when you start paying attention to one thing,
Yeah.
it just inevitably leads to noticing other things.
Sure.
And it just changes how you see the world.
Yeah.
And so it increased my delight and my curiosity, and my gratitude for this beautiful creation that we get to exist in. So,
Yeah, that's really cool. So Charlotte Mason spoke of developing a relationship with nature. So what can that actually look like in real life? Obviously, it started very simple for you, but like, can you give us some ideas of what that could look like for,
mhm.
maybe somebody who's not, a nature study expert or may feel intimidated by it or it could feel like one more thing. Like what could some real life things look like?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think going back to the intro quote that you had, I feel like really has a great phrasing in that, which is, we are all meant to be naturalists, each one in his own degree, and it is inexcusable to live in a world so full of the marvels of plant and animal life and to care for none of these things.
Hmm.
And of course, I had to read that because I don't have it like memorized, but it's one of my favorite quotes. And I think that like the thing is like one of the key words in that is to care.
Hmm.
And what I appreciate about that is Charlotte Mason speaks of us having a duty to the things of nature because they're our inheritance.
Yeah.
And she talks about that in ourselves. And I feel like, in order to fulfill that duty, we have to take the time to notice. And it's really as simple as that. It's as simple as, going outside regularly, noticing things, building familiarity, and gradually just becoming acquainted with
Mhm.
what's around you. And it can look like a lot of different things. There's a lot of different tools that are a part of nature study, um, like, nature journaling or doing object lessons, things of that nature. But I think one of the important things to remember is those are like tools. They're a part of it, but they're not like it.
Right.
Um, and so it can be helpful just to recognize like how simple it truly is. Because over time, those repeated moments of just attention grow into um, a relationship.
Yeah.
And, because you notice, you begin to care.
Yeah.
And, um, and the wonderful thing is that it's not a one-sided relationship. Um, so in that same passage, just a little bit farther down, Mason goes on to say, and in return for our discriminating and loving observation, she, nature, gives us the joy of a beautiful and delightful intimacy, a
Mhm.
thrill of pleasure in the greeting of every old friend in field or hedgerow or starry sky, of delightful excitement in making a new acquaintance. And I mean, she's right, because those things do start to feel like friends. I think
Yes.
about on our property, we are fortunate to have a little bit of land. I don't think that's required to enjoy nature study, but we do benefit from it and are thankful for it. But we have Mexican plums on our property, and they're one of the first trees to flower in the spring. And
Mm.
so every spring, there's this anticipation. We've spent enough years paying attention to when they flower. And so we can begin to anticipate that. And when we do see that first one that blooms, it's like, oh, our friend.
Yeah, that's so great. And I think, man, it is once you just start, like it is such like a joy and a thrill to just begin to continue to notice and you kind of just start going down that rabbit trail of
Hmm.
even more. But it just starts very simple, like I just love your example of just put some bird feeders in the backyard and
Yeah,
see
yeah.
how it just has really, it's blossomed through the years.
Yeah, and like this time of year is such a great time of year. There's things that you can do throughout the year, but
Mhm.
um, for example, another thing that was a really kind of important step in our noticing was like one year we were noticing wildflowers, and so when there's so much new life popping up here and there, it's a little bit easier to notice it. And so, we would just notice each little new wildflower. Oh, that's one we've not seen before. Let's pay
Mhm.
attention to that. Let's notice how it's different.
Yes.
Um, where is it blooming? What do its petals look like compared to this one? And so,
All the fun things. I love it. Okay, so again, I'm so excited for your experience class at the conference. And so, can you kind of just give us a little bit of a glimpse, not too much, but just a little bit of what moms are going to experience in your session?
yeah. So the session's really designed to give mothers the opportunity to enjoy just nature study for themselves. And um, I just want to slow down and spend some time observing, getting to just feel comfortable doing that practice on your own and begin to just kind of see what it feels like to notice. And we'll talk a little bit about the whys and the hows, but mostly I want to give them that opportunity to enjoy it for themselves.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Okay, this wasn't one we had talked about, but I would just love to know, like, what does nature study look like for you? Like as a mom? Obviously, you've got four kiddos, you're schooling and you're doing all the things, but like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so part of it is in the nature study that I do with my kids, obviously. But then I do try to make time to just go outside, even if it's just kind of walking around our property. I do a lot of birding on our property. And then again, through that, inevitably, there's other things that I notice. And because I am such a big birder, I do spend a lot of time outside noticing, but it doesn't have to be. Everybody's got the thing that they're interested in or speaks to them.
Mhm.
Um, but usually at some point in the day, I'm trying to just go outside and just enjoy, even as simple as like sitting in a chair and enjoying a nice beverage and like noticing like what birds am I hearing?
Mhm.
Do I see any butterflies that are flying around in our backyard? So
Yeah.
it can also be a very relaxing thing too.
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm hearing though is like it doesn't have to be like complex, it can just be like you said, going outside and sitting and listening and observing. And that can take like 10,
Yes.
like it's not.
Yeah. And I also do, I enjoy a lot of nature nonfiction books. That's another way that I kind of enjoy being able to increase my knowledge as well as my observation.
Mhm.
The knowledge that I gain through observing obviously is a really important part of it. But there's so many great nature books that just really open your eyes to how amazing God's creation is. And I
Yeah.
really enjoy getting to see that and be amazed and feel gratitude.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So it's really like it's not just one way. It's
Yeah.
multiple ways that we can really, dive into studying nature. So it's not like you just have to go um, on a walk or go hiking or whatever. Like it could,
Hmm.
reading a nonfiction book and learning about a
Yeah.
topic. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and even, like I do appreciate, within our curriculum that we use, there's usually different nature topic each term, and so I do appreciate also how we do transition to different nature topics, and it kind of forces you into, like, okay, this term we're going to be focusing on rocks, and it's not something I would necessarily have picked on my own to pay attention to.
Right.
But that's another aspect that is kind of one thing I appreciate as well, is kind of those different ways to also force yourself to
Yeah.
focus on something you wouldn't normally think to focus
Yeah.
on, or that wouldn't be like your first choice.
Yeah, a little bit. That sounds great. Okay, so what are you hoping that moms who walk away from your class, like what do you hope, or sorry, what do you hope they're gonna walk away with after attending your session or hearing it? Like what's the goal?
Okay, yeah. So I guess, like, my main hope is that moms will walk away knowing that nature study is just as much for them, as it is for the children that they're teaching.
Mhm.
um, because, to go back to that intro quote that you had, the sentence before it says, "Let them once get in touch with nature, and a habit is formed which will be a source of delight through life."
Mhm.
And so, we're trying to train our children to take this with them throughout their journey in life. And I really feel like it's equally important for us as born persons to make sure that we take time to carry that with us, whether we're new to nature study and it's something we're just getting started in, or we're in the middle of kind of figuring out, or maybe we've been at it for a little while. um, the delight is meant for us too.
Yeah.
And so, I hope that they can like leave with that idea of how simple it is,
Mhm.
how simple it can be. Because I know that, as moms, sometimes it feels like a lot to have, like, oh, this is one more thing I'm supposed to be doing
Right.
on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And, so I hope that they can realize it is simple enough to be able to bring that delight into their life, that curiosity, that wonder,
Mhm.
um, and just inspired to be able to give herself that gift.
Yes.
Step
That's
outside and pay attention, and
yeah.
cultivate that sense of wonder.
That's so great. I just am thinking it's like, man, that's one of those things that we don't or shouldn't ever outgrow. We shouldn't ever outgrow, you know, observing and wondering and enjoying uh, the gift that God has given us. And so I think that's a wonderful objective. And I'm excited for people to get to experience your experience class. And so if you're new to hearing about the conference, we're breaking the day up into two parts. The first part is going to be just to be equipped as a home educator. And so we have specific classes that are going to help aid you in that. And then our afternoon classes are just experience classes that you get to sit in the seat of the student and as the learner and do it just for the love of it. And so I'm very grateful, Laura, that you're going to be spreading the feast for the mamas, and I know it's going to be amazing. And so, if you have not gotten your ticket yet for this year's conference, it is time, my friend. It's time to get your ticket for the conference. You can attend in person in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or you can join us virtually. We'll be streaming live all the sessions, so it'll feel like you're there in the room with all of us. So go to charlottemasonenrichment.com/conference to get your ticket. And if you use the word podcast as a coupon code, there'll be a little something extra for you. So make sure you get that. And that is all the time that we have for today on this conference chats episode. But have no fear, there will be plenty more where that came from. I want to remind you what Charlotte said, that the only true education is self education. So we're never going to stop learning and we're never going to stop growing. And I'll see you on the next episode.